And with that, we welcome you on this Masters Sunday to the Masters of Sim Racing, the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmission. You're watching the pre-race show live here on Open Wheels TV. Well, welcome everybody to today's pre-race show. Excited to bring you all the sights and sounds of Indianapolis here before we get set for the second annual Open Wheels 500-mile race. We'll have the race broadcast later on today at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Race Spot TV. Can't wait to bring you all the action. It's been a fantastic month of November. We opened practice 2 weeks ago today on November 1st. It's been a daunting task to navigate these 2 weeks again, but we have made it. Congratulations to the 33 drivers who have qualified for today's race, and even the 3 alternates who are on deck should their name be called. Can't wait to see how everyone performs today. Hopefully we have a nice clean race. We're all able to enjoy a fantastic finish at the end. Well, in just a couple minutes we will send it down to the PA and allow the playing of On the Banks of the Wabash. That'll be our first pre-race ceremony, and then we'll take a quick break and head on into segment 2. But just to give you a bit of a rundown today, we'll have a bunch of guests on today's show. Carter McHugh, the VP of Competition for Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning, he's going to join me in segment 2. And in that segment, we'll also talk to Brendan Lichtenberg. We have a little segment talking about the international flavors of this year's field. A lot of great representation from around the world in this year's race. We'll talk to our pace car driver and reigning top split iRacing Indy 500 winner Brandon Trano, as well as Chris Cahoe from Ludicrous Speed. Later on in the show, we'll talk to our pole sitter and last year's race winner Michele Costantini from Italy. We'll have our additional pre-race ceremonies that will include the military speech, God Bless America, the invocation, the rifle volley, taps. All of that will be in our 5th segment. And in the final segment, we'll bring in Arjuna Kankapati right before he jumps on his first Open Wheels 500 broadcast for Race Spot TV. We'll have the national anthem and the flyover after that. And then we'll bring in Jeff Drake. He's our guest picker today. We'll see who he thinks is going to win the race later on this morning. And finish it off, of course, with Back Home Again in Indiana. We'll have an awesome tribute to all the previous singers of that race at the Indy 500. Without further ado, let's send it down and bring you the playing of On the Banks of the Wabash.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Purdue All-American Marching Band with On the Banks Next up, the Wabash. Let's give them a round of applause. We'll be hearing from them throughout the day from Victory Circle. Thank you.
Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race pre-race show live here on Open Wheels TV. Excited to have you for the next hour and 40 minutes. We'll take you all the way up to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and then Race Spot TV will take the baton at about 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and it'll just be about 15 minutes from when they go on the air to the moment we drop the green flag for the 2020 Open Wheels 500, so excited about that. Thanks to all those watching the live stream. Welcome to pre-race here at the 2020 500. One comment with nobody in the stands. Yeah, at this point, nobody in the stands, but we'll have some fans in the stands later on in the show, definitely for our later pre-race ceremonies. So looking forward to that. Right now, we are going to take a moment and bring up the starting lineup on the screen and give you just a little bit of a rundown of what we're looking at for the grid here in 2020. It's been a fantastic month of November, and really that comes down to the quality of the drivers that we've had here at the 2020 Open Wheels 500. In total, 12 former iRacing Indy 500 top split winners across all forms of top split races. That's both the open and fixed setup 500 that was debuted this year. Just in the first 9 positions, we have 6 former winners of an iRacing Indy 500 top split race. It's just a fantastic group of drivers on hand for today's event. The front row, of course, Michele Costantini. He set the pole and a new track record speed at 231.392 miles per hour. Wilson Neto was second fastest for the second year in a row, 231.358 miles per hour. Next driver who will be starting on the outside of the front row, Christopher DeMeritt, definitely an established veteran in the iRacing IndyCar community, 231.235 miles per hour. In row 2, you've got a first-timer here at the Open Wheels 500, but not a first-timer to iRacing by any means. It's Christian Schallner starting on the inside of row 2 for Team Talent, 231.126 miles per hour, followed by Brendan Lichtenberg in the middle of that row, 231.122. And then Hugo Olsen starting on the outside of the front row. He's with his new team here in 2020, Powerslide Motorsports. He made the race last year, and it really seemed to put him on the map. Hugo's done a great job since then, definitely improving on his qualifying effort of last year, and he'll be rolling off from the outside of row number 2. Moving down the lineup, you get to that third row, and it's the only row in the field where every driver has got a former top split victory in the iRacing Indy 500. Matt Pavelski starting on the inside, Adam Blocker on the in the middle of that row for Powerslide Motorsports, and then Josh Chin on the outside for Team Chimera with Team Talent. 3 drivers separated by just about 0.02 of a mile an hour throughout their 4-lap qualifications run. So just incredible tightness throughout the field in qualifications here. The pole sitter speed from Constantini was 231.392. The driver that ended bump day on the bubble, and we'll get into qualifications day a little bit later, that was Oliver Silva. He was at 230.655 miles an hour. So just about 0.6 of a mile an hour separated our fastest and slowest drivers in the field of 33. Just remarkable consistency, and just shows how difficult it is to find your way into these 500-mile races, particularly the Open Wheels 500. Well, we're going to take a look over here, and it appears that Carter McHugh is ready to join us on the program. We'll keep that starting lineup up on the left-hand side of your screen. And now moving him into the Today at the 500 studio, it's Carter McHugh, the Vice President of Competition for Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning. Carter, welcome to the pre-race show. We finally made it to race day here at the 2020 Open Wheels 500. How are you doing this morning from the West Coast? Carter McHugh, do you have a copy? It's Tanner Watkins in the Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning booth.
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
Welcome to the program. It's race day here at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. It's been a long 2 weeks, but here we are. What are your emotions this morning? This will be your second race spent in race control. Just talk us through how you're feeling today and your outlook on today's race.
Yeah, I mean it's been a long 2 weeks, so it's nice to finally get to the Sunday. These guys have been putting in a lot of hard work, and as we've seen, they are pretty close together as far as talent and setup. And I think today is going to be very interesting and hopefully a clean race. I'd like to see this thing go green from start to finish, but that's not impossible. But it's likely we'll have a caution here or there. But these guys are pretty safe, so. Hopefully we can get some clean racing, some fun racing, and maybe Michaela Constantini can defend it, or maybe we might have a new race winner. We'll see.
Talking right now to Carter McHugh, the VP of competition for Open Wheels Motorsports sanctioning. Before we talk about actual Open Wheels 500 stuff, let's just talk about the Speedway, Carter, and the Indy 500 as an event in real life. You got to go to your first event in 2017. What has this race meant to you since that first time that you got to go to the Speedway? And how has that love for this sport grown over the years, mainly in part due to IMS?
Yeah, it's almost impossible to fully explain the Indy 500 to somebody without them actually going there, because at the end of the day, it is just a race. Because it's not, they don't win a championship if they win the 500. They don't. It's nothing special. It's still just a race. But once you've gone there, you see that not only is it a race, it's an entire month, and qualifying and carb day and everything. It's truly the month of May, and obviously the race is just icing on the cake. But I can't see myself going another year without it. It's a tradition now, and I think what's really cool to me is every single year, absolute history is made, and it always just gets me excited thinking, oh, who could be the next Indy 500 winner, and we'll find out, next year. So the race, it's now a tradition, and the only way I can explain it to people is, hey, let's get on an airplane, let's go watch the race.
All right, now talking to Carter McHugh, VP of Competitions for Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning. Talk about the Speedway itself, and you got to see it just a little bit from the outside in August, but what could you notice about IMS since Roger Penske has taken over, even the refurbishments, maybe just to what you can see from the outside looking in?
Yeah, it just, without anything specific, it just looked fresh. Like everything just looked nice, clean cut, new colors. Obviously the 5G tower is pretty cool. Um, the new signs, I think having those billboards is pretty. The big TV screens, that's going to be huge. But I think Penske just thought, this is the greatest track on earth. This is the motorsports capital of the world. Let's show it. Let's make it look clean. Let's make it look like this place is actually professional and represents actually what it is and the history and everything. So I just liked, obviously most of the features that really are going to pop out are going to be in the inside of the track, which unfortunately I wasn't able to see. But like I said, it just has a new fresh feel and a new fresh look, and I'm absolutely excited to go see what the inside looks like.
Carter, wrapping up here with IMS memories and thoughts before we move on to the Open Wheels 500. What is your favorite memory so far of the Indy 500 since you've been going?
Yeah, so I will say the one that sticks out to me is my first carb day. That was the first time that I've ever heard an IndyCar, seen an IndyCar, and I got a new respect for those guys after seeing actually how fast they go, and that was something else. And then the green flag on race day, my first year, seeing that many people standing up for 33, cars essentially just going around a circle. It was bone chilling, and I'll never forget, those 5 seconds or 8 seconds from seeing, the pole sitter and turn four zooming past going into turn one. That was truly special.
All right, now let's move on and talk about the Open Wheels 500. You got to sit in on a bunch of practices during the first week and got caught up on qualifications weekend a little bit. Just as a general sense, what are your thoughts on this year's class of drivers? It is arguably the most talented field that we've ever seen assembled for an iRacing Indy 500. That was just on the entry list, and then a lot of those big dogs moved through qualifying and made the race. We didn't have too many large omissions this year like we had last year. There's one or two, but all in all, it's another stacked field and perhaps even stronger than in 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, this is probably the most stacked and talented field. But not only are they stacked and talented, they're hardworking. They are passionate, and they truly love IndyCar and iRacing, and I could see that from the time and time again, same names on the practice boards. And, these guys truly down to their last qualifying attempt they're putting in every ounce of effort and every ounce of heart that they had. So, these guys are passionate about this, and all these guys truly want to win this race. And I think that they're going to give it their absolute all. And at the end of the day, I think they're all going to leave everything that they have on the table. And, if it's enough, it's enough. But if they come up short, that's what drives people to come next year. So, yeah, I do like the passion and the intensity that these guys bring.
Right now, talking to Carter McHugh. Early in the morning right now, our track temp just reading 85 degrees Fahrenheit. We expect that to get up over 130 during the race. We've all raced in these hot track conditions. What's that going to do to the field of 33 today, and how difficult is that scorching hot track temp going to make things for this field of 33?
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, I think, we're predicting somewhere between 135, 130 to 135, and that is going to drop the amount of grip, exponentially. So it's not only going to make riding in traffic much more difficult, but it's going to spread the field out. I don't know exactly how much. You might have some lap car interference, so that'll make things definitely interesting with those leaders probably having a little bit more trimmed out setup. But it's definitely going to spread them out, and as the day gets hotter, tires start to wear off. We're not going to see as much passing going on at the end of these fuel stints, and a lot of these guys need to start making their moves at the beginnings and restarts, and yeah, I think the moves need to be made, but at the end of the day, it's going to get hot, tires are going to be gone, and they're just going to have to hold on and play their strategy.
Yeah, and like you said, holding on might be the operative word. I know at the iRacing Indy 500 in May, it was hot enough for that race that even 5-10 cars back in the pack, it was quite challenging to follow consistently, and you had to have a car really set up to accommodate those conditions and work itself through the various stages of heat cycles that we're going to see in this event. And it could also cool down at times with the cloud cover rolling over and slightly cooling the track. But in a general sense, we expect it to be pretty scorching hot and a great challenge for what we think is the best drivers in the world. So we're getting ready right now. Just a few moments, we'll bring in Brendan Lichtenberg to the program. He's a driver of the number 10 machine for Broken Arrow. Down here, Broken Arrow with I5G and Apex Racing Team. Brendan, a former iRacing Indy 500 top split race winner. And let's go ahead, bring Brendan into the booth and talk to him right now. Brendan Lichtenberg, welcome to Today at the 500. It's the pre-race show here at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I hear you.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to another race day at the Open Wheels 500. We're happy to have you here. You're going to have a pretty good view of the start today, rolling off in the middle of the second row. First and foremost, how was your month of November to this point? And what are you looking forward to today on race day?
It's definitely been a good month so far, and hopefully that can only improve compared to last year. Definitely going to have a better view at the start, starting fifth. I started in the last row last year, and definitely for the sake of my ego and probably my liver as well, it's a good thing we didn't have to have another last row party. So I'm feeling pretty good for today at least.
Right now, talking to Brendan Lichtenberg, sponsorship on his machine from youtube.com/team i5g and twitch.tv/Brendan Hyperstar. You talked about the contrast from last year and your qualifying efforts to this year. What made the difference for not only your team but your car in particular and your entry, especially as we talk about qualifications weekend? Obviously, it's such a different mindset coming into the race, starting 31st, 32nd as opposed to 5th. What changed really in the last 12 months?
I don't really know, to be honest. I think even going back to the DW12, which drove a bit differently than this car, I was never the strongest qualifier, particularly for Indianapolis. But I think it's just over the years, just having a little bit more confidence and feel in the car. I'm not qualifying in like a Logitech G25 anymore, which I think makes a little bit of difference. So and overall too, just help from teammates too. And I think the more time I spent seriously doing key runs, knowing I could be where I am now, fifth, versus I was usually just happy to make the field before. So overall, I've just dedicated more time to quality runs for sure.
Talking to Brendan Lichtenberg right now. Brendan, as a veteran of the sim racing community, I'm going to contrast a couple of things. So you've been around and you raced back in the DW12 era. First, talk about the contrast between the DW12 and the IR18, and then I'll move on to kind of a follow-up question about this current generation chassis. Just how different does the DW12 race, for those who don't know, to the IR18 and when they changed the arrows on that chassis, which is the same underneath, but definitely does not drive the same anymore.
Yeah, the best comparison I can really make with the DW12 is it feels I imagine it feels pretty similar to something like the the Hanford device in kart, when they had that like Michigan and Fontana, where you have this really strong draft in the DW12, but only when you're within like about 0.7 of a car in front of you, and you just feel it. It takes you, and you better make the pass, or you're gonna have a massive jack up behind you. And but add to that as well, there's a lot more. There's a bit more, pieces of the DW12. You had the bumpers, and they're not called the bumpers, but that's kind of what they were. That's going to add that added drag too, so that increased the effect. There's still quite a bit of aero push the IR18, but it's even more so with the DW12 and the IR18 draft. It's almost stronger, and it happens further back, so you have to be careful when you're going into turn one. You might be behind a car like a second and a half, but you could easily just skate up into the track and the wall. So same for the DW12.
So now I'll take that opportunity and say, last year we didn't race with the aero screen at the 2019 Open Wheels 500. Now we have that here in 2020, and that itself, the added weight and the where that weight is distributed, has altered the handling of the car and forced some setup changes from last year to this year. How does that change things for you? I personally, just going back to the DW12, I've never been as comfortable in the IR18 as I was in the DW12. Now adding this aero screen, it's another dynamic. How has that changed things over the last year?
Yeah, definitely. It was a big change for everyone because I typically, for one, don't drive closed cockpitted cars, and we're not used to having a bar directly in front of our eyes. From a racing standpoint, it's never really affected me too much, or even like a vision standpoint. Now, given I'm on triples, so I don't feel like I'm very closed in. But yeah, in terms of the added weight, when it came out, everyone could definitely feel it. Even like on the everywhere, like even on road courses, but on the ovals, it felt eventually it didn't really feel too much different. There's a little bit more weight, of course, to the front, so that was fundamentally changes how the car is set up. But we think we've got a pretty good handle on it now. I think everyone has, for that matter.
All right, talking to Brendan Lichtenberg, driver of the number 10 machine for Broken Arrow with i5G and Apex Racing Team. Brendan, I'll leave you with this final question. What's it going to take today for you to stay up front? We've already mentioned in the show the track's going to be hot. What do you got to do to ensure that you're in that lead group and have a shot after that final pit stop?
I think what you guys were talking about, track position is really going to be key. It's now is going to probably get warmer throughout the race. Presuming you have 33 cars, or at least maybe 20 cars at the end, that's a ton of cars that they're going to warm the track up, keep the track up. So I think really the key today is going to be clean pit stops. I was really practicing a lot of those last night, and yeah, it is really all about being in that final pack after the last pit stop. And if I get to that point, then anything can really happen. So.
All right, that's Brendan Lichtenberg, everybody, driving the number 10 machine. Sponsorship from youtube.com/team i5G and twitch.tv/Brendan Hyperstar. He drives a Honda Delara IR18 for Broken Arrow with i5G and Apex Racing Team. Brendan, best of luck today in the Open Wheels 500. Thank you again for returning in this second edition of the race, and congratulations on a strong qualifications effort.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, that's Brendan Lichtenberg, everybody. We'll move him out of the booth, and we'll take a quick break and then come back with another segment. We'll talk a little bit about the international flavors of this year's Open Wheels 500. That's all when we come back just a few moments from now. You're watching the pre-race show live at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway pre-race show at today's second annual Open Wheels 500. Excited to bring it to you here on Open Wheels TV. And in just about 2 hours' time, we'll go green for the second annual Open Wheels 500-mile race. Before we do that, let's give a little look to sort of our international flair on this year's Open Wheels 500. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Carter McHugh back into the booth at this time. Carter, it's really a fantastic field of talent, but also a very diverse field of drivers on this year's entry list. We have 6 drivers from the UK and Ireland club, followed up by 5 from the Scandinavia club here on iRacing. That includes Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. And then 3 drivers from Canada. Only 1 driver made the race last year from Canada. 2 from Brazil. That's Marco Brazil and Wilson Neto. And 1 from Italy. So that's our reigning race winner, Michele Cosentini. Talk for just a moment about how cool it is to get this kind of support from around the world, and what is really an American-based event. It gives us not only greater exposure, but we've also tried to accommodate folks around the world with a comfortable time slot, let's say, for those not living in the United States. And I think we've been rewarded with this kind of participation around the world.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately we want this race to be, the best virtual racing race in all the world, and the only way to achieve that is if we have, international drivers. So as we've seen here, 18 of the 33 people, which is over half, are international. So I think that's awesome. That's going to bring not only some good talent to the race, but maybe some attention internationally. These guys with their social media and whatnot, hopefully that'll bring some attention, and maybe in the future more international drivers. But yeah, this is awesome. It not only brings good talent, but it just the Indy 500 is obviously the greatest spectacle in the world, and the only way they do that is by having everybody in the world come to try to win this race. So I think that brings in the realism aspect of the Open Wheels 500 and what we try to achieve here.
Right now talking to Carter McHugh. So Carter, last year we didn't have an American finish on the podium here at this Open Wheels 500, and that was really our first introduction to some really strong racing from international drivers at the Open Wheels 500. Of course, Michele Cosentini won the race from Italy, and then UK and Ireland club members Liam Quinn and Henry Bennett finished second and third. The next driver to finish that represents an American club on iRacing was Simon Bryant, and he finished fourth. So do you think that trend will change today? Will an American break through and find their way into the top 3, perhaps even win, or will we see another stranglehold from the international competitors? Some great drivers from outside the U.S. starting up front already. That includes Cosentini on the pole, Neto starting second from Brazil, Christian Schallner, a pro driver in the NASCAR ranks here on iRacing from the UK and Ireland club. He starts fourth. And then Hugo Olsen bursting on the scene in the Scandinavia club. He starts sixth. So will we see an American on the podium today?
It's going to be tough because we've got, like you said, a few international drivers, in the top 6 starting. But, we do have, quite a few Americans up there, Demerit, Lichtenberg, and then, the entire row 3. They're all Americans. So I definitely think that we will have 1 or 2 international drivers on there. But today I'm pretty confident that we can get an American on there. We've got some super, super talented Americans, all through, row 4, row 3, and Indy's a long race, so don't count them out.
Carter, when you look at this list, 6 drivers from the UK and Ireland, and then 5 from Scandinavia, and we'll read off those Scandinavian drivers. Of course, we mentioned Olsen at the top. Jesper Orman is a newcomer to the Open Wheels 500 in 2020. He turned more practice laps than anybody, nearly 800 through the last 2 weeks. He's starting 12th. Then you got Andreas Eek. He's a veteran in the sim racing community for Team Talent. from Scandinavia. He's starting 19th. Down the list, Oliver Silva making his first start in 27th. But the big name on that list from that area, Young O, he starts 30th. Last year's pole sitter at the Open Wheels 500, and he was fighting for his life on bump day just this past Sunday. So when we talk about Young O, what do you expect out of him today? Last year they really struggled in the race itself. After starting up front, he dropped pretty quickly through that first fuel stint. What do you expect out of him later on today?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. You know, he's got a lot of cars in front of him, and tracks are going to get hot. So I can't see him quite making it to the podium. But you know, I could see a top 15 run, top 20 run. You know, last year he did have his pole, but he struggled in the race as well. So you know, I'm not sure how much practice Ludicrous Speed has been putting in with the IR18, but we are talking about Young O, so we can't quite count him out of, you know, putting in a stellar run. I definitely think making it to the pole front row and the podium today would be quite a stretch. I don't think we've ever seen a race winner or a pole or a podium person come from that far back. So I'm projecting maybe a top 20, top 15 run from Mr. Young O.
All right, that says it right there. So we're going to go on and take another break here real quick. For those of you watching on screen, the fans are starting to roll into the Speedway this morning. So building up that intensity, the excitement level as we get closer to the rest of our pre-race ceremonies a little bit later in our second hour. Coming up next, we'll take our break and then come back, talk a little bit about the drivers who didn't qualify, including our alternates for today's race. And then we're going to talk to Brandon Trano just past the top of the hour. He'll be our pace car driver today and is a very accomplished sim racer in his own right. Won the feature race at the iRacing Indy 500 this past May, the only driver to do that twice in iRacing's history. Excited to talk to him. And then we'll talk to Chris Cahill as well in the next segment. Excited to bring all that to you guys. It's the Today at the 500 pre-race show live at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. We'll be back in just a few moments here on Open Wheels TV. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's race day at the 2020 Open Wheels 500. Just about an hour left in our pre-race show, reaching halfway. You can see the stands starting to fill up, some pit boxes populating out on the pit lane. So very excited to get closer and closer to today's 500-mile race. We are going to take a moment and talk a little bit about the drivers who missed the show for this year's race. It was a stout field of participants. We really enjoyed seeing a lot of talent sign up for this year's race and then also come out and participate. We missed drivers such as Brandon Trano and Zach Campbell, a couple that were unable to make a qualifications attempt for this year's race, and we'll talk to Brandon in just a little bit. But they had some other obligations that took them away. Also missed drivers like Adam Plunkett and Bradley Walters, unable to sign up for this year's event. So hopefully we get them back at some point soon, and we'd love to have them at the 2021 event. But right now, talking about our alternates, first and foremost, Randy Cheneth and Brian Barney were the first and third alternates, respectively, at the end of the day on bump day. Both drivers having to pull out of their alternate slots. So that makes our new alternates the number 47 of Rob Powers, plus the 00 of David Adams, and then the 20 of John Downing. So 3 drivers on deck today, all with an opportunity to race should someone else not quite show up. And I'm going to bring Carter McHugh in right here. I know this wasn't quite on the script, but Carter, I just want to get your thoughts. For these guys that are alternates, how would you go about preparing for the race, not only today, but just throughout the week here? They've been able to practice with all the qualified drivers. How would you go about your business in making sure that you were ready to go for the 500 miles should your name be called today?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I would treat it as if I was one of the 33. I would not want to just say, oh, I'll just do some of this stuff, and if they do call me, I'll whatever. You definitely have to be ready to go. If you're not, then you might as well not be in it. So I definitely think these guys are treating it like they're in the race. They've got everything ready to go, and they're just waiting for that notification that somebody has not made it and they're up to go. So it's definitely a bummer. These guys want to be in the race, but certainly they are ready, I believe.
All right, and with that, we're going to bring a special guest into the booth. He doesn't really need much explanation given his resume and his credentials, but we're gonna give a little bit of a rundown anyway. He's a 2-time feature race winner in the iRacing Indianapolis 500, a 3-time top split winner in that event. The only driver to win 2 feature races at the iRacing Indy 500, accomplished sim racer and real-life motorsports professional, Brandon Trano. Brandon, welcome to the program here on race day. Sad to not have you in this year's race, but we're excited to have you involved in another capacity.
Yeah, good morning, guys. How's it going?
It's going great. Really excited about today's second running. I know a lot of your teammates are in this year's race and have a great chance at winning the race. Just talk about the group of guys that you normally race with and how you feel about their chances this morning.
Yeah, we've put in a lot of work the past couple weeks. Just running a lot of race laps, trying to figure out how to get this car to work in a higher track temp. I think that's going to be key. Once that track temp gets around 126 or higher, it gets really tough to pass people, and tires become really, really important. So we think we've got a decent race set. We think there's still a little bit we could have found, but we're happy with where we are right now.
Now let's, for a moment, even though it's incredibly painful for me, let's go back to last May's iRacing Indy 500. You break through, becoming just the first driver to win 2 of those feature races. Talk us through that race, and for me it was very challenging in those conditions. I think I speak for all of us saying these hot track temps, they really make it hard on the driver to maintain focus and be consistent over 200 laps. Take us back to that day and when you clinched your second feature race win at the iRacing Indy 500.
Yeah, that was a good day. Um, we had a good little one lap shootout at the end between you and me, and yeah, to be honest, I just thought it was Michele's race to win. I mean, we had that long, I think it was 100 lap plus green flag run, and he jumped me on one of the pit stops when I had a longer pit stop than him, and he kept catching the tail of the pack's draft and pulling away ever so slightly. But when that caution came out, it changed everything. But leading up to that point, I was pretty content running second, to be completely honest. But yeah, when the caution came out, it changed everything. It bunched the field back up, and things kind of went sideways for a lot of our teammates. Michele got wrecked. I think Chris got wrecked, and a lot of them got taken out really quickly. And then it was really only down to, I believe, me and Zach Campbell. So it was a good, strong showing for the I5G guys. But in the end, it only really came down to 2 people. But ultimately, we ended up winning that race and making history.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up Michele Costantini. It seems ever since he won this race last year, he's really been on a almost straight upward trajectory, and not only the IndyCar here on iRacing, but also having some success and venturing into other forms of racing on the sim. Just talk about his growth over the last year and how he's really become an annual contender here at Indianapolis. Now he's the pole sitter for this race and perhaps the favorite to win again today.
Yeah, Michele has he's grown quite a bit when it comes to Indy. Him and I have done a lot of testing together, specifically this year in May, and it was very surprising to see how close he was to me in our Q pace. He's actually a little bit quicker than me, which if you know anything about our team, I'm usually about 100th quicker than the rest of the teammates, but to have somebody who's a little quicker than me kind of sucks a little bit. Not gonna lie, but it's good because it was driving us. It really was. It was making us try to beat each other, which is I think what helped a lot in our Q pace because I want to say 2018 we weren't very quick. We were down on the charts for some reason. We didn't have what everybody else had, but these last 2 years we found something. And then between him and I on race times and the amount of race laps we put in trying to just dial in the car, I think really, really played into our role of how solid we were this year in this year's race. And even on his Porsche championship, I mean, the man's getting really good. He's getting really good in whatever he drives. So it's been pretty cool to see how quick he's got at Indy.
All right, Brandon, before we let you go, let's talk a little bit about the duties at hand today. You're our pace car driver for the 2020 Open Wheels 500. What kind of an honor is that to pace the field before today's 500-mile race in the Corvette C8R race car?
Yeah, it's a really cool honor. Just not being able to make the race because of other obligations, but just to be in the race to lead these guys to the green is going to be pretty cool.
All right, before we let you go, who's your pick today? Who would you envision ending up in victory lane at the end of the 500 miles?
I'm going to surprise everybody. I'm going to go with a long shot of the hyperstar, Brendan Lichtenberg.
Oh, okay. Okay, we had Brendan Lichtenberg on the program just a little while ago. Good pick indeed. He'll start from the middle of row 2. Well, Brandon, thanks so much, man, for joining us today and for being our pace car driver. It means a lot to keep you connected to this event. We're excited to have you back next year, and we're looking to move the schedule around a little bit and hopefully accommodate all kinds of folks hoping to avoid that NASCAR finale at the end of the year and hopefully get you into next year's race.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And thank you for all your work. This is becoming a really fun race to do. So thank you.
All right, that's Brandon Traino, everybody. Happy to have him on the program today. We'll move him on out of the studio at this time. Just waiting now for Chris Cahoe to join us in the lounge. Not quite in the program just yet. So, Carter, I'll open the floor up back to you for a moment. A guy like Brandon Traino, so much history here on iRacing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Couldn't be a part of this year's 500 on track throughout qualifications and all that, but to have him maintain affiliation with the race as our pace car driver, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another candidate with his kind of credentials to pace the field today.
Yeah, I mean, deservingly so. This guy, he's had his fair share of success here at Indy, so yeah, it's great to have him. You know, it sucks that he couldn't be in the race, but it's good to have him involved with it. And I definitely think that having him in this race one year, hopefully next year, it's going to be big. This guy's good, and I definitely think if he's in the race, he's going to be up there towards the top. But yeah, it is really cool to have him running the pace car, being with the field, and you know, it is Brandon Traino, so yeah, it's really awesome.
All right, we've got our man ready in the lounge, and now bringing him into the studio at this time. It's Chris Cahoe, driver of the number 57 machine for Ludicrous Speed. He drives a Chevrolet, and he will roll off 21st today. Chris, welcome to your first Open Wheels 500. How are you this morning, and how's the experience been throughout this month of November?
Well, thanks for having me, Tanner. Things are looking good so far. Kind of looking forward to getting the event started. Had a team meeting last night, talked strategy, figure out a way we can get from 21st up to the front. We're just trying to hang in there towards the end to give ourselves a chance to be up there in the front pack at the end.
Yeah, Chris, you talk about your team, a driver for Ludicrous Speed, and talk about working with that group. Obviously, some established drivers in this iRacing IndyCar community with a lot of success and credentials to back up their notoriety. What's it like to work with them, and how do you guys all work together as a team to make sure that this year that team has a better race pace than last year, where Young O and Tim Doyle really struggled in the race itself?
Yeah, I think as a team, you know, behind the scenes, we've been working even since before the Elite IndyCar Elite 500, to where, you know, focusing on telemetry, putting in the hours to get the setup to where it needs to be for race day. Obviously, you know, qualifying and race are quite a bit different, and I think last year we always knew that, but we put the time in. We put the time in to make sure the car didn't just have speed, but it had the longevity that it takes to get towards the end of a 500-mile race and still have a chance to win. I think as the whole team, you know, the whole team chips in. We have people that more focus on engineering and people that focus on actually getting out there and turning laps on the car to see how it feels and provide feedback to the engineers. I think having people, you know, we have people like between Young and Niles and myself who are putting in the hours on the engineering, and people like, you know, Tim and Joe Branch and all those guys who are great drivers and provide us great feedback. I think it's going to put us in a good position for today.
And just talking about today in particular, we've already mentioned one of the themes in today's race is certainly going to be the track temperatures, even hotter than what we saw at last year's race. Really, for a veteran driver such as yourself, how do you approach a race like this where you know, it's going to be a little cooler at the beginning, still somewhat warm, but there's going to be a lot of different cycles in the track temperature throughout the day. How do you stay on top of that, and what would be your best advice to those who are perhaps a little nervous going in?
Well, I think just like the real world Indy 500, there's going to be times where you're going to be able to attack with the car, and there's going to be times where you're just going to have to get in line and not make any mistakes. And you want to be, I mean, you want to be in position at the end, and you can't do that if you put yourself in the wall or put yourself, ruin your tires to the point to where you're falling back and losing spots in the middle of a run. So you got to play it smart. You got to attack when you can, and you just got to take what the track will give you.
Right now, talking to Chris Cahoe, a newcomer at the Open Wheels 500. You've been in some other 500-mile races here on iRacing, but just talk about what's the experience been like to join in this race this year and run through the full month of November festivities now leading into race day itself.
Well, I'll tell you this: it's pretty impressive the amount of work and realism that goes into it. I'm looking forward to next year already, just from the fact I didn't get to spend as much time on the sim as I would have liked to the last week or so. I think it's awesome. I hope everybody watching today really enjoys it.
All right, Chris, what any sponsors or partners that you'd like to give a shout out to, or your team members on the way out? I'd certainly open the floor up for you to be able to do just that.
I don't have any at this time. I know I can't remember what all the sponsors listed. I know the one I think Triptacular is the big one we need to get out there.
All right, that's Chris Cahoe, everybody. Best of luck to you, sir. Again, rolling off 21st today. We wish you a clean race, starting from the outside of row 7, and hope you've really enjoyed your Open Wheels 500 to this point.
Thank you, Tanner.
All right, Chris Cahoe, everybody. We're going to move him on out of the studio at this point. And now just give a quick shout out to our partners. Big thanks to Mitchell Transmissions for being the presenting sponsor of this year's Open Wheels 500-mile race, returning from last year. Also, a massive shout out to the Major Series and Michael Lett for their support of this year's Open Wheels 500. Every broadcast here on Open Wheels TV, as well as our race broadcast this afternoon on Race Spot TV, brought to you by the Major Series. Also, big thanks to the Majors Garage, official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500-mile race. And big thanks to Pit Lane Parlay, the sponsor of our qualifications weekend, and, of course, the Pit Lane Parlay Pole Award. Well, we're getting later on into our 500-mile race pre-race show. Moving on to our next segment, this is when things start to get good, Carter. Excited about talking to Michele Costantini a little bit when we come back from our break. We're also going to have a bunch of our additional pre-race ceremonies, the military speech, God Bless America, the invocation, the rifle volley, and taps. That's all coming up next on Today at the 500 pre-race at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Today at the 500 pre-race show here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Excited to bring you back. We're in the second hour of our pre-race show. Not long now until we fire the engines, just about an hour and 10 minutes from this point. We'll all be getting on the grid and preparing for the pace laps and arranging the field of 33 into their rows of 3. So thanks to everybody who's watching along right now. We've had some decent little viewership today on the pre-race show. We're happy to bring this to you guys. Well, real quick, just like to touch on the qualifications weekend. What a weekend it was. We'll bring in our starting lineup again for the meantime. Michele Costantini took the pole after winning last year's Open Wheels 500. We mentioned Wilson Neto, again, second year in a row, he's starting second on the grid. You look all the way down there, Young O, last year's pole sitter, qualified 30th after having to put in a run on his final attempt at the end of the day on bump day. Perhaps the story of the weekend was Chris Stouffer, the driver for Powerslide Motorsports. He qualified 29th, but on day 2 qualifications, he was down to his last attempt, was battling some hardware issues all through the week leading into qualifications. Did not think his new steering wheel system was going to arrive via mail until the day after qualifications. Somehow, magically, it showed up between his second and third runs on Sunday, and with just a couple practice attempts put in, Stouffer went out, put his car in the field of 33 in one of the better stories of the Open Wheels 500 in its short history. Well, we're about to bring in a special guest that has certainly played a big role in carving out that history of the Open Wheels 500. We're going to move him into the booth right now. It's the driver, the number 66 machine. He is our pole sitter for today's Open Wheels 500. Sponsorship from SDK Gaming, VRS, and Apex Racing Academy. Driving a Honda for Apex Racing Team with i5G and Broken Arrow. It's our pole sitter and defending race winner, Michele Costantini. Michele, welcome to the program. Welcome back to race day at the Open Wheels 500.
Thank you very much, Tanner, and good morning, everyone.
It's great to have you on the program, and I'm getting excited. We're just about over an hour and 15 minutes from the green flag, give or take a few minutes. Talk about this day last year, going back for a moment. What was it like from the morning to the end of the day for you, and trying to keep those emotions in check, not only during the pre-race, but during the race itself when you knew you had a great car, the strategy was playing out, and you were consistently staying up front on pace, on merit. When you knew you had a good chance to win, how do you contain that and keep your emotions in check in the car as the driver?
Well, it was quite an interesting race, actually, because at the start of it, it was swap drafting with a couple of power slide guys up front of the field before any yellows came out. And I had 1 second of a lead while I was in P1 there. And then the yellow came out, and we decided to pit. And I was basically stuck there because of the track temp got pretty high in that frame of time. The track temp got pretty high, so I was basically stuck in, I think, something like P8 or P9, somewhere like that. And I thought my race was actually gone at that point because I couldn't make any moves. But I took the opportunity to start and trying to save fuel, and it worked out to be the best strategy in the end, I guess. And I wasn't sure I was actually gonna make it until the last couple of stints. On the second to last pit stop, I realized that I could actually make it if I kept saving as much fuel as I did up until that point. So yeah, then after that, it was just all about keeping my head cool and yeah, getting the car to the end of the race.
Talking to Michele Costantini, our race winner at the Open Wheels 500 last year and this year's pole sitter. You mentioned it was warm during the race last year. It's going to be even hotter on track this year. How do you approach that? How are you going to navigate the 200 laps today in these what are expected to be insanely hot temperatures on track and make sure that you're there at the end with the chance to win once again today?
Well, we're starting from a good position because, as you probably already heard by most of the drivers, track position will be extremely important today with the hot track temperature. But by starting up front, we've already basically done half of the work because getting up there is going to be hard for the guys in the back. So being up there at the start is going to be key, I think. To well, obviously you still have to work to stay there. Stay up there for the whole length of the race, basically up until the track temp starts to rise enough so that it will get harder to make moves.
Michele, you've been quite busy since last year's win here at the Open Wheels 500. For those who don't know, kind of what are some other interests you've taken on and you're competing for here on iRacing?
I've done most of the special events. I have done Daytona, I've done Sebring. That's what I've done. I've done the VCO Cup of Nations, Petit Le Mans this year as well. Even tried to do a couple of Porsche races to try and qualify for the World Championship this year as well. But yeah, on the road side, it's been quite busy. But on the oval side, I've been quite silent. I've not really done many oval races up until basically since Open Wheels last year. But Indy is always nice to come back to, and I'm very happy to be here and to be racing today.
Yeah, talking to Michele Costantini, driver of the number 66 machine for Apex Racing Team with I5G and Broken Arrow. Michele, one driver that we had on the program here just a little while ago, teammate Brandon Trano, he spoke very, very highly of you and your pace as a driver here in the IndyCar, specifically at Indianapolis. You were very strong at the iRacing Indy 500 back in May. What have you learned and what can you apply from that May race as far as things that have changed for this year's Open Wheels 500? We mentioned there's no aero screen in last year's race, and that certainly has altered the setups a bit. What can you take from May and apply to today's event?
Well, I think we can actually take more of what we saw in May to be what we are gonna see today compared to last November, because as you said, much of the car has changed. We got the aero screen, as you said, so the balance of weight is changed a little, and I think most of the teams got that figured out. Some teams more than others, but I think we're looking pretty good. And yeah, we'll see what we can do today. And as you mentioned, Brandon, it's always nice to receive compliments from the only person who's managed to win the iRacing Indy 500 twice. So that makes me really happy to hear that.
All right, we won't keep Michele much longer, but final question, Michele, what are your keys to the race? Personally, goals in your head, check marks essentially that you need to reach throughout the 500 miles to ensure that you're there at the end, and what would be a result that you'd be happy with at the end of the day?
Obviously, coming from a win last year, the goal is to repeat that. And yeah, I don't really see how I could be happy in any other way other than winning today. I guess if some of my teammates won, that would be good as well. It probably would make me happy in a sense as well. But obviously, the goal is to win and repeat last year's result.
All right, folks, that's Michele Costantini, this year's pole sitter at the iRacing or the Open Wheels 500-mile race, a new 4-lap track record, 231.392 miles per hour, and of course, he's our defending champion. Michele, best of luck today. It's always great to have you on the program, and we're happy to have you back at this year's Open Wheels 500. Again, best of luck today, and have a clean, safe race, my friend.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the show.
All right, that's Michele Costantini. Everybody will move him out of the studio at this point, and we're closing in on another set of pre-race ceremonies. It'll be the military speech given by Dylan Root, member of the Illinois National Guard and the Mount Carmel, Illinois Police Department, followed by God Bless America, a very special pair of performances today by the U.S. Army Band. God Bless America will be the first of those. So without further ado, let's bring in our PA system, and we'll get you down for the homage speech and God Bless America pre-race festivities beginning again here at the Open Wheels 500.
On this November weekend, we pause here in a moment of silence to pay homage to those individuals who have given their lives unselfishly and unafraid to make it possible for us to witness, as free men and women, the world's greatest sim racing event. We also pay homage to those men and women who have given their lives unselfishly and without fear to make racing the world's most spectacular spectator sport.
And now we welcome back into the program our good friend Carter McHugh. And Carter just got done with a couple of pre-race ceremonies there, the homage speech paying homage to our military veterans and those who have served, and God Bless America. How awesome is it to get permission and collaboration with the U.S. Army Band and to be able to represent the men and women who have served at this event. I think it's an awesome tie-in, and just a few days after Veterans Day, a great opportunity for us to show our respect for our armed forces.
Yeah, I mean that was awesome. I really did appreciate that, and I think it's cool to involve these people because they're the reason we're able to do this kind of stuff. They're the reason we can be free, and that we can have this stuff as merely a hobby to do, and that's truly a blessing. And like Dylan said in the homage speech, these guys selflessly laid down the line. They didn't do it for themselves. They did it to maintain freedom of this great country we live in. So yeah, thank you to them. There's never any words or any action we could possibly do to repay them, but simply try to involve them in everything and just let them know that they're why we do this. They're the reason that we can wake up every day and not have to worry about losing our freedom and being able to live the lives we want to. So always, always gratitude and thankful for those men and women.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but one of my favorite moments in the entire pre-race ceremonies at the Indianapolis 500 in real life is taps, and that moment when 350,000 people go silent. That's always my favorite moment of pre-race. I don't know about you, but I'm excited for that. That's coming up now in just a few moments. For you, what part of pre-race is the most exciting at the Indy 500?
I'll have to agree with you on taps. Taps is one of my favorite things. Like you said, the fact that we can get 300,000 people to be quiet to listen to taps is amazing, and obviously the significance behind taps. So that's one of my favorite. And then, back home in Indiana, tradition, fan favorite. Always love that. Always fun to hear that. So excited for those. Excited for those two things, and I actually can't wait to get those started here.
Carter, one thing that you kind of got a sneak peek on the day before the Indy 500 this year. We were out at the track on Saturday before the Indianapolis 500. Got to see those Thunderbirds practicing some passes over IMS. What was that like to see that before the world saw it on Sunday for the race broadcast?
Yeah, well, the fact that we didn't expect it, that was pretty startling, but that was awesome. I think anytime that you have 5 fighter jets flying, I don't know, 500 feet above you, it's definitely an awesome sight to see that kind of that kind of machinery going that fast. But yeah, it's super cool. Always people love that. It just brings the excitement, the thrill, and it's a tradition, so it wouldn't be Indy without it.
All right, thanks, Carter. Now we're going to get ready again for another set of pre-race ceremonies. We're going to turn the mic over to a friend of mine, someone I respect a whole lot. Having us lead the invocation today will be Jacob Goebel, the Student Ministry Director of First Baptist Church of Casey, Illinois. That'll be followed by the rifle volley from the Maryland National Guard Honor Guard, and, of course, the playing of taps. Big thanks to everybody involved in today's pre-race ceremonies. We're certainly excited to bring that to this event. It's a special part of the Indy 500 in real life, and we'd be remiss if we didn't have that included in this year's event. Excited to bring that to you, and I will again send it back down to the track PA and Jacob Goebel leading the invocation for today's race.
Let us pray. Eternal God, the light of your love and truth guides us along the path of life. And so we pause this morning to express our heartfelt thanks for your presence in our world and the many blessings it brings. Help us to be a blessing to one another so that all people may know your goodness through us. Today we welcome to our beloved city of Indianapolis those who gather from around the world for the Open Wheels 500-mile race. May the excitement of this contest help us to compete well in our lives and to give you the glory in all that we say and do. Just 1 week following Veterans Day, we thank all who have served our country in the armed forces, and God bless those who have died for our freedom. God bless all of those who have gathered for today's race, and God bless America. Amen.
Ready? Aim. Fire. Ready? Aim. Fire. Ready? Aim. Fire. Ready? Freeze. Out.
Always a special moment. Taps played here at pre-race. The 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race will be back in just a few moments with the rest of our pre-race ceremonies live here on Open Wheels TV. And welcome back to pre-race at the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmissions. Today's pre-race show brought to you by the Majors Series. Very excited now to bring our next guest into the program. He is one of the most respected members of the iRacing IndyCar community, a commentator, producer, man of many talents at Race Spot TV. It's Arjuna Kankapati joining us in the booth right now. Arjuna, welcome to race day at the Open Wheels 500.
Thanks, Tanner. Can't wait to get started. Just about 50 minutes away from the Race Spot broadcast getting underway. Will Vincent, myself, and Aaron Likens ready to get going, and yeah, should be a good one here.
So, Arjuna, you've been with us every step of the way here in this month of November, watching kind of the air and the temperature in the room change from what was very laid back 2 weeks ago when we opened the track for practice on November 1st, opening day. That tension built through the first week, and we saw it burst a bit during qualifications weekend. Now we're here on race weekend. Just personally, what have you seen and what have been your favorite parts of experiencing this 500 for the first time, really, in this sort of depth?
You know, well, qualifying on Sunday was really something special, Tanner. It was one of the most fun broadcasts I've gotten to do with RaceSpot since I joined. Just the tension in the air as everyone tried to secure their spot in the field of 33. Thinking of Oliver Silva, for example, who was on the bubble for so long and waiting in his rig to head out on track. It was just such a tense day. And then something else that I really enjoyed was yesterday, the day before the 500. For the first time, we had coverage of the Veterans 100 and the pit stop competition. Just a chance for some of these drivers to blow off some steam before the main event. And, you know, a lot of attention has gone in from all of these teams over the last few months to build up to this race in the 500 miles. So it was good to see some of them letting their hair down, as it were. And Trano getting the win in the Veterans 100. That was great to see. He won't be competing today, but he will be the pace car driver. And then Brophy taking the win in the pit stop competition at the line with Adam Blocker running out of fuel. A great way to kick off a weekend of racing.
All right, Arjuna, now looking ahead to the race itself, what are you keeping your eyes on today? What will be sort of your theme for this Sunday's 500 miles?
Well, it's going to be hot, Tanner. I mean, in the month of May, in the official iRacing 500, we had temperatures of around 120 Fahrenheit in terms of our track temperature. Well, today with the dynamic sky that is obviously enabled in the iRacing session, we're looking at temperatures to reach potentially upwards of 130 Fahrenheit. So tire wear is going to be crucial. Adapting to the changing conditions is going to be very important. And ultimately, Tanner, whoever is able to adapt their car the best and work up through the field and ensure they have track position towards the end of the race is going to be in a very strong position come the end of 200 laps.
Arjuna, talking to Arjuna Kankapati with Race Spot TV, what have been perhaps some surprises or headlines that have caught you a bit off guard this month in November? We've had our share of twists and turns, but what are your headliners as far as stories for the month to this point?
I think the main storyline, Tanner, is that all of the big teams have shown up in numbers. You've got 10 of the team talent representatives in the field. You've got 5 from both the big guns of i5G and Powerslide. So that's 20 drivers out of our 33-car field, represented by just 3 teams. So the big guns have come out. It's been interesting to see someone like Kristen Challoner, for example, who's jumping into open wheels competition, just joined up with the iRacing staff as well. This will be one of his last competitions in terms of out there in a competitive sense now that he has joined the staff, but qualified out there in 4th with a setup that apparently he hadn't really done too many practice laps on. So that was an impressive run from him. Good runs as well for some rookies. Jesper Orman in 12th. That was a very impressive run. But of course, the big other storyline, and that's something that we've talked about on a number of occasions, Tanner, is Youngo all the way back in 30th. A multiple-time pole sitter at this track, struggling in qualifying, and he'll be starting on row number 10 on the outside, so almost at the back of the field.
Yeah, and that's a story that's almost too big to miss. We can't quite pass that over. And we talked to his teammate Chris Cahill this morning. They say they put in a lot of work and trying to avenge essentially the fate that befell them at last year's race. They struggled mightily in traffic and in race trim during the 500 miles last year, and it was cooler then. What are you expecting out of that ludicrous speed bunch today? The group of Youngo, Tim Doyle, and Chris Cahill. Joe Branch missed the field, but they got those 3 horses in the race today.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to want a strong running here. But again, I think it's going to be all down to how much work they've actually managed to do to improve that race setup, because I mentioned those team talent guys. A few of them aren't necessarily the most confident in their race set from some of the words I've been hearing. What I am hearing, though, is both i5G and Powerslide are very confident right now in how their race setup is going. They're confident about their strategy calls. They've got a lot of experienced hands up in the booth that's going to be calling the action for them, telling them when to come down pit lane, exactly how to attack things out on track. It's going to be hard, I think, for Ludicrous Speed. They're not in the best track position, and I think track position is going to be so vital in this race, Tanner. I mean, if you look back to the iRacing Indy 500 in May, the first 10 laps of every stint are crazy. Just fighting for track position before the tires start to wear and it becomes a bit more single-filed. So I think, honestly, it might end up being a bit more of a stop-and-start race in some regards. Hopefully we don't get too many more cautions than the 2 we had last year, but I really think this is going to be a very interesting race, and it's one that all the drivers can't just rely on what they're coming into this race with, all the preparation they've done. It's about adapting in the moment and being the best driver you can be.
All right, Arjuna Kankapati, got about 30 seconds here. First, who's your pick for today's race? And second, where can we watch this race produced by Race Spot TV coming up in just about 50 minutes time or say?
Well, they're putting me on the spot, and if I don't say one of my teammates in Powerslide, I think I might get in trouble. So I'm going to go for our fellow new recruit. He joined the team with me this year, Hugo Olsen from Sweden. He'll be starting outside of row 2. He's been very impressive.
Yeah.
Tanner. I've been really impressed at how Hugo has joined up with the team and been working and become a very crucial member. So hoping for good things for the Swede. And in terms of watching the race, you can join us in about 40 minutes time across RaceSpot's YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Not Twitter this time, but we'll be across 3 different platforms. You can pick the best one for you, and live timing and scoring will be available shortly at timing71.org, and we can't wait for everyone to join us.
All right, that's Arjuna Kankapati, a huge supporter of the Open Wheels 500. One of the reasons why this event's really taken a step forward here in 2020. Thanks to Arjuna. We're going to move him out of the booth now because we got to send it back down to the PA and get you more pre-race ceremonies. Coming up next, it'll be the National Anthem and the Flyover, another appearance by the U.S. Army All-American Band, or the U.S. Army Band, Pershing's own. Let's send it down to the PA. And we will get the airing of today's National Anthem and the Flyover.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, what an awesome honor to have the U.S. Army Band Brass Quintet with Staff Sergeant Eric II perform our national anthem. And, of course, a fabulous flyover bringing us home here in the home stretch of our pre-race show. We're going to bring on our good friend Jeff Drake. Jeff Drake joining us on the program now. Going to have a snappy segment here, and then we'll hand it off to close things out with Back Home Again in Indiana. But welcoming Jeff now into the studio on today's 500-mile race show. Jeff, you got a copy with us here in the Open Wheels 500 booth.
Yeah, hey Tanner, hey Carter, it's so good to be with you guys today. First off, I just want to say how amazing that it is that the U.S. Army Band Pershing was able to perform both the anthem and God Bless America. It was absolutely amazing. I'm so thankful that they were not only able to sing, but I'm thankful for their service as well ahead of this or just following Veterans Day weekend.
Yeah, no, good points indeed, Jeff. Way to make note of that, because we're very proud to have them a part of this event, and it's a special day for all of us when we get to go to the Indy 500 in real life and honor those on Memorial Day weekend. It's only fitting that we do it here as well. Jeff, I want to ask you first, what are you going to be keeping your eyes on today? Not racing in this event, you were here in 2019. What are your headlines or things you'll be paying attention to throughout the 500 miles?
Well, the biggest thing I want to be looking for today from the drivers is compromise. Now, we've seen in past Indy 500s, both on iRacing as well as the real world, that you can have the car that's good in the first 100 or 150 laps, but it may fall off towards the end, depending on the conditions of the surface. We saw it this year with Takuma Sato in the real Indy 500. We saw it in this year's iRacing Indy 500 as well. So we're going to see the the track's to be very cold early on, and then it's going to steadily heat up throughout the day. So some people may say, I want to have a quicker car earlier, get some track position, so they may trim out a little bit more, but that may hurt them a little bit later. So what I'm going to be looking for is who's going to have the best car compromise to say, like, okay, I don't want it too bogged down early on, and then I may fall back and I won't be in a position to move my way up through the pack later on in the race. But I don't want it too trimmed out later where I'm going to be really struggling back in the pack come lap 180 or so.
Good points indeed from a sim racing veteran. And now I ask you, Jeff, who is your pick to win today's race? Who do you like to finish either up front in P1 or a group of podium potential finishers at the end of the 500 miles?
Well, I'm going to go out on a massive limb and say last year's winner and today's pole sitter, Michele Constantini. And that's putting aside his obvious stats and his skill set, both shown to us through the past 2 weeks as well in the previous 500s. But what I've been noticing throughout practice is that he has been better than anyone in getting behind a car and able to sit there and follow and pick their spots and when they want to pass. We've seen a couple cars today, or I should say more than a couple, have a rough time when you get about 10 laps on the tires of pulling out and making that pass. And Michele just hasn't seemed to have any issues with that. So he's going to be my one to watch for sure. Others, I think Christian Challoner is going to be a big threat today. He's coming over from the NASCAR world to lend his hand at the Indy 500. And we may have a couple long shots. Austin Espetit is starting 28th. I'm going to be helping him out today. Hugo Olsen, I heard Arjuna talk about him a lot. I think he has very high potential as well. So there's going to be a lot of good drivers and good cars out there today. And really, from 1 through 33, anyone can win this race for sure.
All good points indeed. Well, Jeff, thanks for making time this morning.
Yep,
and joining us on the pre-race show. Best of luck in your efforts behind the scenes during today's race, and we hope to have you back at next year's race. We do miss you out on track.
Yeah, I very much miss it as well. But once again, Tanner, thank you for all the hard work that you've put into this race. It shows through everyone, through the broadcast, through how many people are excited and talking about the race. And we couldn't be any happier with the job that you've done.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate those kind words. Jeff Drake, everybody, will move him out of the studio right now. And now give the floor to Carter one last time, my friend. Who do you like to win today's 500-mile race? We go green in just about 45 minutes time from now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with someone no one's picked yet. Our fellow American sitting third on the grid, Christopher Demerit. I think, he's been strong this whole time. He's with the awesome team, Broken Arrow, I5G, and Apex Racing team. And he's sitting third on the grid. So, that's just as good as pole in my honest opinion. I think that there's going to be a good amount of passing today. And with his experience here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he's going to be seriously strong. So I'm putting my pick for Christopher Demerit, and we'll see how he can do.
All right, that's Carter McHugh. I'm going to refrain from making a pick, serving as the race director, but I think everybody that was mentioned already to this point, Michele Costantini is going to be very tough. Christopher Demerit always finds himself in the mix. Same with Brendan Lichtenberg. He's got more top 10 finishes at the iRacing Indy 500 than any other driver. Very interesting mention from Jeff, Christian Schallner. We're excited to see how he does this first Open Wheels 500. Like we said, a very experienced driver in the NASCAR ranks. And Hugo Olsen, as Arjuna mentioned, very fast Scandinavian club driver on Powerside Motorsports. He made a big leap from last year's qualifying effort to this year, so definitely excited to see how he does. Well, folks, we're in the home stretch now. I would like to just give thanks to everybody who's been a part of these Open Wheels TV broadcasts. Carter McHugh for joining in and adding some commentary, and everybody who has watched along the way. I know Logan Detweiler has been a strong supporter of all of our shows on Open Wheels TV. Thanks to those that have been watching this morning. I know we've seen Adam Blocker and Marco Brazil, Niall McBride, Christopher Demerit, Fabio Viana, all comment on today's pre-race show, and I know a bunch more of you guys are watching on other devices. So thanks to everybody who's been a part of things. I have to give thanks to Mitchell Transmissions for supporting this event. Without their return to being the presenting sponsor, we likely wouldn't be here today. Also give thanks to the Majors Series and Majors Garage, Michael Lett for his support of these broadcasts and helping us really put on a great production throughout the month of November. I hope you guys have enjoyed that element. And also big thanks to Pit Lane Parlay for their support of Qualifications Weekend and the Pit Lane Parlay Pole Award. And, of course, Faye Constantine and everybody at ABC Circle Music for allowing us the use of the ABC IndyCar theme. Without further ado, I will sign off for the final time here before today's 500-mile race. We will leave you with Back Home Again in Indiana, performed by the one and only Phil Kaiser of Indianapolis, Indiana, and also give you some pictures of former singers of the famous song at the Indianapolis 500 through the years. We give you Back Home Again in Indiana. Head on over to Race Spot TV and watch the broadcast in just about 30 minutes' time, the second annual Open Wheels 500. Thank you, everybody.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash,